Tribe, how you guys doing? This is going to be your review for Family or Fiance season. We still on season 1, episode I think 24. Child. Anyway, um, so we have Pat and Brittney. This is actually last week's episode. I never did the review for, so let's go ahead and jump into it. So we have Pat and Brittney. Now, Pat, I'm going to kind of be all over the place with this because I have a lot of thoughts on some things, so we can talk about it, whatever. Pat and Brittney, they met on the I think they said they met on Tinder, so they met on a dating website. Pat has never been someone to commit. He said his longest relationship was like 6 months, and he's 30 years old. Whereas on the opposite side, Brittney is the total opposite. Her longest relationship was, I think she said 12 to 13 years, and she's also 30 years old. So her family's concern, oh Lord. So her family's concern is her getting hurt again, them having to help her pick up the pieces, her kind of jumping into this. They feel like they haven't really been dating long enough, and they're not really sure about his sincerity. They feel like maybe he's not as sincere. And what we find out, oh Lord, and what we find out is the sincerity, excuse me, the sincerity part comes down to, because when he first met them, he told them that he loved them, and they were like, "You don't even know us to be telling us you love us. You don't know us like that to be saying that you love us. Like it's too soon. It's too soon." And I was just like, "Okay, that's very weird," but I understand where they're coming from with that. Now, his side of the family's concerns are a little deeper. They feel like she's standoffish, she's spoiled, bougie or whatever. Now, on his side of the family is his cousin, it's his two cousins and his best friend. Now, his female cousin helped raise him because his mom died at an early age, and I'm assuming his dad wasn't in the picture, or I think his dad passed away too, but don't quote me on that one. But she helped raise him, and so she's there she's a cousin, but she's kind of a motherly figure to him. The other cousin, the male cousin, he kind of feels some kind of way. But the biggest person that I'm looking at is the best friend, and we'll get to him in a second. Now some things, Brittney's family feels like some things were said about Brittney, about her being spoiled and her being this and a gold digger, that she's only out, she's only messing with him, I guess because he's got a little bit of money or whatever. We'll get to the money part in a minute. And his side of the family is sitting around like, who said that? We didn't say that. Did you say it? Did you say it? I didn't say it. I think it was the best friend. I think the best friend said it and it got back to her. But we're going to get to that best friend in a second. As far as, the activities are pretty much the same. On his side, he's going to be playing cornhole. Basically, he's playing cornhole, but every time somebody gets the thing in the hole, they get to ask him a question. Nobody was getting a thing in the hole, and finally he was like, listen, forget this game, which I want to know. And they had a really, really good conversation. And they were able to, again, express their concerns. And her sister was really giving him the side eye, like, listen, you took me, y'all, dropped me off at college, and you were like, I love you. And I was like, you don't even know me. This your first time meeting me. You ain't been around me. You don't know me like that. And see, they from New York, so she got that New York, like, you don't know me. Don't be telling me you love me. But I think they were able to have a good conversation when it was over with. Now, on her side, and I feel like this was a little bit of editing. She was playing the game, two truths and a lie. And she had to write out the two truths and the lie. And they made it seem like she was, keeping them waiting. And they were waiting so long for her. And things were just, they were just waiting. But she had to write out her questions. Now, maybe she was thinking about them a little too deeply. But I'm like, come on. I think that was a little bit of editing to put an exclamation point on this whole idea that she's bougie and this, that, and the other. Now, and while they're waiting, the cousin and the sister, the cousins and the best friend are like, see, this what we talking about. See, she this, she that. See, this, that, and the other. See. So she finally shows up, and they give, because they had to cook. They had to cook, child. So they were reading through the two truths and a lie, and everything they thought was true was a lie. And the cousin, I'm sorry. She was like, this is making me really look at myself and realize that everything I thought about her was wrong. Like, I'm sitting here thinking, wow, I'm getting all of these wrong. So I made a lot of assumptions about her that weren't true. So the cousin was sort of realizing, wow, I might have thought too, I really thought bad of her. Then they got to the question about the wedding. And the two truths and a lie was, we're spending $50,000 on the wedding. We're doing this. We're doing that. And the answer was the $50,000 on the wedding. The best friend lost it. The best friend lost it like it was his money. I mean, he walked out. He was upset. Like, she went after him. I mean, he was damn near crying. And I was just like, why are we so worried about his finances? And like she explained, she said, listen, both of us make six figures and they live in Charlotte, North Carolina. Now, I don't know. Now, Charlotte is a little bit more expensive than it used to be. But the cost of living in Charlotte is not that high. And for both of them to be making six figures, I mean, I still think that's ridiculous to spend on a wedding. But it ain't my wedding. It ain't my business. But for him to get that upset over how his friend was spending his money, see, he different. He different. I mean, the man I know wouldn't spend that kind of money on no wedding. Like, that 50 G's, 50 stacks on a wedding, that's ridiculous. And then he started talking about, see, I go to him with my problems, and he know I ain't making that kind of money, and he making that kind of, he got money like that, and I just feel like, he just ain't real. He ain't the guy that I know. He ain't the guy that I knew. Like, he just ain't real. Like, I'm talking to him about barely being able to pay my bills, and he's spending 50. And I said, you know what? I'm reading between all these lines, and I'm about to break all this shit down. And this is what it boils. It's a couple of things that it boils down to. First of all, later on in the episode, they have a conversation, and he says, I was building walls when I should have been building boundaries. He said, because boundaries allow you to still be in my life, but in a certain capacity, whereas walls keep you out. He said, I'm not going to apologize for changing and for putting my relationship as a priority and putting her as a priority, but I will apologize that I shut you out in the process. But here he said, but things have to change. Like and the therapist said, a lot of times our relationships, we're still acting in a, she said, you're still acting in an elementary school capacity where y'all met when you have exceeded that. And I feel like this may be a situation where Patrick wasn't being as upfront about his financial situation and his income because he didn't want his friend to feel bad. And so the friend didn't necessarily know how well Patrick was doing. But the other side of this, I feel, and this is my opinion, I feel like the best friend has gone to Patrick to borrow money in the past. And Patrick used to do it. And now Patrick will not. And Patrick was blaming her for that, thinking, oh, she's a gold digger. That's where all of Patrick's money's going. He don't never have no money for nothing. And the best friend realizing, no, it's not that she's taking all my money. It's that you're no longer allowing me to benefit. And that doesn't make the best friend a bad person, because sometimes, you just hit hard times, you get in a bad situation, and your friend helps you out. And I think he no longer was that person. And Patrick even said that. He said, I've always been the person he can lean on. And again, the fact that he was so preoccupied with Patrick's finances makes me think that it was a financial leaning. And the therapist said, she said, yeah, but what ends up happening when people lean on you and then you move, they fall. And she said, you're not in the same place anymore because you are in a relationship. You are trying to build this relationship. You are trying to, make it work. She was like, so you're not wrong for it, but he has to understand that you are different, but that's not a bad thing. See, people are like, you change, you different, you change, but that's not a bad thing. It's just not. Now, as far as her being standoffish, Brittney being standoffish with his family, Brittney said, look, that last relationship, we were together for 13 years off and on, and I got very close to his family. And so when the relationship ended, some things went down as far as it wasn't just me breaking up with him. I broke up with the whole family. And there were some things that got crossed up and expectations and things like that, and she said that was very hurtful. So maybe I did subconsciously put up a wall because I didn't want to be hurt again. If this relationship didn't work out, I didn't want to have to deal with that again. And so the sister understood. She said, I understand. I keep saying sister. It's cousin. She understood. And she was like, that makes a lot of sense. Like, I get it. And that makes a lot of sense. And I can respect that. Like, I could definitely understand why you felt that way or why you moved the way you moved. And they ended up sharing their vows with their, she shared her vow, the vows she was writing for Patrick with the cousin, and Patrick shared his vows with the best friend. And ultimately, I still don't think the best friend is happy and okay. But I think the best friend realizes that he's odd man out. Because by the end of the weekend, the sister and the other cousin, they were cool. They were in a good spot. And so I think that that's the situation. He realized he odd man out. And, again, the fact that he just kept going back to the money. It just makes me feel like it's something with that money. And again, I think that Patrick has probably downplayed his financial situation. And then when he started saying things he couldn't do financially, they automatically thought it was her when it was him pulling back. That's how I took it. Because for you to think she was a gold digger and she making the same amount of money he making, I mean, she can't be digging on much. I mean, I guess she could, but Anyway, that's kind of how I took it. And like I said, I know this is kind of all over the place, but it really wasn't a lot on her side. Like, once they had that conversation with him, they were all in. They just were a little put off, I should say, by him maybe being a little too, I love you, I love you, I love you, too soon. And they were just worried about that. But it was more so on his side, and it was really more so the best friend, which I still don't think the best friend is cool with it. I just think he gave his blessing because he was like, oh man, out. I mean, that's just how I feel about it. They did get married, and they said the wedding cost way more than $50,000. So listen, I hope they stay married the rest of their life. That's their business. But they had actually been engaged for over a year, so I feel like they were probably buying stuff or paying for stuff for a year and a half, and you just kept adding to it. You know what I'm saying? I don't feel like it was, here go a check for $50,000. I think it was, okay, here's the photographer, boom. Okay, we're going to take these pictures, boom. Okay, we're going to rent this place, boom. Okay, you know what I'm saying? I feel like it was just stuff added. It's still a lot of damn money, but I just feel like it was stuff adding. But anyway, child, that was that. Like I said, it wasn't a whole lot this one was real one-sided. And again, I still got my eye out on that best friend because I still got some thoughts on that best friend, but I'm keeping to myself. I just think the best friend is way too preoccupied with what Patrick doing. You know what I'm saying? Anyway, y'all let me know what y'all think, honey. Put in them comments. Peace.